Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee. Had a few technical problems this morning, so joining a little bit late, but I'm very excited today to talk about how to use LinkedIn and in particular to take a quick look at your profile. So if you're listening to this on LinkedIn, even open up another browser window. If you listen to Facebook or some other channel, open up your browser, look at your LinkedIn profile. When was the last time you looked at your LinkedIn profile, really looked at it and said, is this thing working really well for me? Because guess what happens before somebody meets you, before they get on a call with you, if they just met you at a conference or had a call with you, one of the things they're probably going to do is pull up your LinkedIn profile. And what does your profile say about you? The reason why I think this is so important is, first of all, for many people, the last time we looked at our LinkedIn profile was when we set it up 5, 10, 15 years ago, whenever it was. And so it's time to dust it off, take a look at it, and say, how can I make this better to either make a first impression or to make a lasting impression? Because your LinkedIn profile is your statement of who you are. I believe this is so important. We're going to talk about two aspects of your profile today, your headline, and then we'll dip into the profile. But the thing I really want to focus on is your headline. So as we get started, would love for you to introduce yourself and where you're coming from. And also, how do you use LinkedIn and your profile in particular to drive connection in business? It'd be great for you to share how you use LinkedIn and also what the benefits are that you derive from it. It'd be great for other people to hear about it, for people to see that, to hear some best practices, okay? So what I'm going to do today is share quite a few slides because it's just something that I do quite often, and I just realized that I am on the wrong slide. So let me get back to where I want to be. This is what happens when you're running things at the last minute, trying to make everything work. So the thing I want to start with is, first of all, that a brand is the story people tell about you when you're not in the room. And use LinkedIn is your brand because you're not always in the room to tell your story. And so how good of a story is LinkedIn doing in telling your story? And oftentimes people don't think of LinkedIn as their story, as their brand, but it absolutely is. It's your stand-in when you can't be there to explain how you support people, what your value proposition is. So this is the reason why I think looking at your LinkedIn profile, spending just a little bit of time to just get it up to snuff to make sure it's doing its job for you of representing your brand. So I'm just going to give you a few things to do about how to actually do this. So first of all, the thing that I really want to focus on today is before you can do any of that storytelling, you have to know who your audience is. And what I mean by that is who do you want to engage with on LinkedIn? And again, this is why I wanted to ask, how do you use LinkedIn? What do you want it to do for you? If you're looking for a job, then your audience are people who could potentially hire you. If you are leading an organization, you're leading change, then the people you may want to be engaging with on LinkedIn are the people you meet, vendors, customers, people who you'd want to engage with. It could also be the employees inside your organization if you're more focused on people internally and developing that relationship. If you're leading a huge transformation, for example, they may also be looking at your LinkedIn page. And you may be recruiting people. Right now, I'm hiring like crazy for my new team. So again, if you're interested in working with me at PA Consulting, would love to hear from you. And the thing that I have is, I'm trying to optimize my profile and my presence there to be looking for great people who want to join. So who's your audience? Be really clear about who they are, and also what are their main challenges? Not what you want to get out of it, but what do they want to get out of things? And when they come across you, they can then evaluate, is this somebody, can you actually help them meet those challenges or not? And what's the impact if you actually are able to help them? I mean, you want to think about the outcomes too, that if you were to engage with your audience, would you get a new customer? Not just to get a new customer, but what kind of impact would you have in supporting them in their goals? So this is really important because I think thinking about how you use LinkedIn why you use LinkedIn. Before you do anything else about yourself, think about the people you are trying to support and to serve. So the comments are going a little bit crazy here. So I'm just going to just show a couple of them. Let me get rid of the slides here for a second. We have Al King here. He says, I've been looking forward to the session. He thought he missed it. So glad you could be here, Al. Glad you could be here. Amadi, thank you for joining today. Etienne has this very nice, kind thing to say. My course on digital transitions and recruiting changed my life. Thank you so much, Etienne, for sharing that. And Hamdi said that LinkedIn is really helpful for him and also for other members. Let's see. Marissa has this thing to say. As a former professional temp, I use it to define the tasks of various assignments I held and round out the many leadership roles I've held on nonprofit volunteers. So that's a really great way to show, again, the breadth and depth of your experience. So, and Al, you just asked a question. This will be recorded, so you can always come back and look at the recording on LinkedIn and other places where you may be looking at it. So, and let's see, Sanjay says, great, thank you for doing this topic. I'm glad you're here, and I hope other people will get some value out of this as well. Let's see, so Yun says, who is your audience? In fact, everybody is on LinkedIn, customers, ex-bosses, which is a really good point, competition, friends, suppliers, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, everyone is on LinkedIn, which is the reason why you need to make sure your presence and your story, your brand is really well represented. And instead of trying to reach everybody, who are you trying to reach? So I just want to emphasize again and again how important it is to understand who your audience is so you can really pinpoint and address their needs, because that's who you want to talk to. All right, so let's go back to my slides here. And what I want to go and talk about is the first and most important thing, which is your audience. Okay, so just one other example here. It's a little bit hard to read. Let me try to make it a little bigger. One of the things I did, it was for myself and my team, was to really be clear about who the audience was. And this is from before, when I was writing much more to disruptors and launching my new book. And so we had a persona. Her name is Valerie. She had various demographics, what her job was, but also what are her feelings and needs, what are her challenges of feeling alone as a disruptor, that much of the content wasn't really helping her get really pragmatic. And we keep referring back to this audience profile so that we are completely aligned and making sure we are fine-tuning everything that we do, the research we're writing, the posts that we're putting up on social media, even these live streams. I have very clearly an idea, like Valerie is who we are trying to talk to, the person we are trying to support. So you could even take it down to that level where you're creating personas for your various customers and audiences you're trying to reach. So one of the things I want to talk about today is how to create a compelling headline. The reason why headlines are so important is that anytime you show up on LinkedIn, you have your little head and you have the little bit of line underneath that is basically your headline. And for most people, they have their title and their company name. It's not using that headline to the best extent that it could. So have your headline work for you. Have it tell your story. Have it sell your story. And let people know, who are you? What do you stand for? So who do you help? How do you support? Use a verb. Highlight skills that are unique to you. You can use this as a template. Fill in the blanks here. I help people do X. And my approach is different because of X. And some best practice, again, start with that verb. Who do you help? Add your role or industry, your capability, your title, and limit it to about 120 characters because it will be cut off. So I want to show you a few examples of some great headlines. These are just things that I pulled out. The first one this is from a colleague of mine at PA. I redesign businesses to make things happen faster and people a bit happier. And she repeats that in her profile, which we'll talk about in a second, and explains in greater detail what that means. So she's very consistent in the way that her headline, her profile and the examples that she gives in her work experiences all lead to this one headline for her. Generating growth for clients for 10 plus years through robust marketing initiatives. That's a really good headline. You know what this person is doing. And you also know, because of that number there, that they've been doing it for quite a long time. Positioning businesses as the forefront of their industry for 18 plus years, change manager and transformation specialist. This is somebody who's looking at putting in more keywords in to talk about their capabilities, to talk about what they do, how do they add value, and again, some numbers here to show experience and depth of change. And the last one is mine, catalyzing transformation to maximize human potential. And then I put my title as Chief Research Officer at PA Consulting. So I use this as a way to say there are many, many different ways for you to be able to write headlines. There is no single one way to write a great headline. So you can try a lot of different things, a lot of different ways to make that work. And one of the really valuable things that I have seen out there is this one site, which is AM Institute, American Marketing Institute.com/headline. And it's a little tool. You can plug your headline into it, and it'll give you an idea what the emotions are that are tied to your headline. So mine was, I think, spiritual and imaginative, or intellectual. Spiritual and intellectual is what they characterize mine as. And the inspirational side of things is always a great aspect to have inside of your headlines. So that's another way to just check your headline to make sure there's some emotional punch to it. Because when there's an emotion attached to the headline, when there's emotion attached to your brand, it's more memorable. So those are a couple things that I wanted to share about headlines. I just want to see, yeah, there are tons of more comments here. Let me just go through here and just see if I can find some on here. Mark, welcome from Savannah coming in, and Jay coming in from Atlanta. Mark is just saying here, great to hear you talking about professional branding on LinkedIn again. I honestly feel like we can't do this enough. We talk about company branding, product branding, and marketing, but the most important brand, the most important product you will ever market is yourself. Let's see. Etienne shares how he has been using LinkedIn has been monumental in growing my professional network and my professional academic arenas. Utilizing the Boolean search feature helps capture the widest audience of potential candidates in recruiting. Yes, Boolean searches, very, very helpful, as you have seen. Let's see. Here, Sanjay is asking, can you elaborate what should not be shared on LinkedIn platforms? This is a great question, and I might make that another topic that is in the content coming up, but I'll talk very briefly about this. What should you share, what you should not share? Think about your audience again. I'm going to sound like a broken record. What would your audience want to hear about? Do they want to hear about what you had for lunch? Probably not. But they want to know about what you talked about over lunch? Definitely. Do you see the difference there? The difference is the content that would be relevant to them to help them achieve their goals, address their challenges. That's what you put in onto LinkedIn. I will share personal details in a story. It's not something I did with my family or vacation I did, but the reason I share that story may be to illustrate a point to help my audience. So these are all, again, you can share anything. You can share pictures. You can share emotional things. I recently shared that I went back to Amsterdam and saw people I used to work with 30 years ago. And I connected with this leader, Ian Smith, who was absolutely fantastic and formative early in my career. And that is relevant to the audience that I talked to, because we're all about leadership and developing ourselves and our people. So I think, again, you can talk about so many things and not being, and don't shy away from being personal. Don't shy away from being emotional, but think about your audience. Marissa shares another great resource for analyzing headlines, headlines.sharethrough.com. So we'll definitely take a look at that. There are a lot of headline resources available. Just be careful, because some of them are analyzing headlines for search engine optimization and your search ads. So just be a little careful sometimes. I think this one I've seen and actually is a great one because it looks at the use of different types of words, common words, unusual words that will capture people. Let's see. Barbara says here, I create opportunities for my target audiences, invite them to participate, connect, and contribute. So a great way to be using LinkedIn about this. And let's see. Here is Marissa, again, just sharing it inside the links. Again, that one headline thing. And let's see, we have also Mustafa coming in from Egypt. We have Joaquin coming in from Puerto Rico. That's great. Oh, and here's Al with a great question. I'm transitioning to a new career path and that I have no experiences. How do I factor this in my headline without being seen as inexperienced? The fact of the matter is you may not have deep experience in that area, but you have skills, team working, you are dependable. The things that you want to highlight in that area is the fact that you produce results, that you can have that flexibility to be able to get that work done. There are actually quite a few specific headlines that are specifically written for students or for people who are doing transitions in their careers about how to optimize your headline to show that you are looking for to appeal to employers. The worst thing that you could do in your headline is to say looking for opportunities, because that doesn't tell anything about you. Make sure the headline says something about you and what you bring to the table. And it should be absolutely consistent again with everything else that you're doing on your profile, in your resume, the story that you are trying to tell about yourself. All right, let's see. We're just going to go back to my slides and just talk about the story that you have, about the about section. I'm not going to spend so much time on this one because frankly, it is so personal to each person. And headlines are an easy, quick way to identify your audience and to get a really fast, high impact change to your LinkedIn profile. The about section stems from that work of your headline. So work on your headline first, and then come back and look at your about section and fine tune that again. Look at same questions. Who's your audience? What are their challenges and problems? And what's the impact you're going to have? And you want to repeat that in your profile. And here, go a little bit deeper. Who are you? What makes you tick? What are you excited about? What are the things that you get up in the morning and to say, I love this about my job? Another way to think about it is that if you weren't getting a paycheck, what drives you? What are you passionate about? And what parts of work do you really love and enjoy? And then also include some of the things that you've done in the past. Again, it's lower down in your LinkedIn profile of your achievements, but put some of the highlights into your about section. If you had some significant changes in your career, what drove that? What made sense? If it didn't make sense, why does it make sense now? What did you learn from those very different experiences? I have a friend who used to be an executive recruiter, is now a musician. And how do you make these two things tie together? Look across all the things that you have done. Maybe even go and talk to your colleagues or ask your existing and former clients, what are the things that you think of when you think of me? What do you think of that I do really, really well? And then put some numbers. I've done X over so many years. Put some things in there about how long you've been in the industry, how much you've accomplished in a certain amount of time if you're not that experienced. So again, these are all things that you can do to make your about section a lot more full. And don't be afraid to add more things in there. I wouldn't make it too long, like pages and pages of reading. You're aiming for people to be able to read or to skim things in a very quick way. So just get an idea. Because remember, many people are just looking at your LinkedIn profile, like right as they're dialing into a Zoom call, or just before they're looking at their phone, before they sit down and have coffee with you. or they just met you in a meeting and they just want to know something about you. So make it really readable. And if it's going to be long, then break it up into sections. Now, this is going to be some other best practices, again, skimmed in 30 seconds. The questions that you want to have people be able to answer: what makes you unique? Where's your career heading? How others describe you? And write in the first person, because this is not Charlene did this. This is I do this. This is your statement of who you are. So here's a very hard to read example, but you can go see this on my LinkedIn profile. This is my about section, and I tweak it every once in a while, but it has had the same format now for a couple of years, and I know it works because literally people will call me and say, "I just read this about you on LinkedIn in your profile, and I see that you do executive sessions. I have one coming up. Can you please come in? Can we talk about this?" So, and it's in here that this is what I do. I do executive workshops. So it's clear and easy at the very top. I have 3 headlines, 3 areas, ways that I do work and help clients. So easy, scannable, very clear highlights of what is it that you do? How do you create that value? All right. So want to just see if there are other questions that you have in here. Let's see. Let's see. I'm just trying. There's so many comments in here. I'm just trying to take a look. Let's see. Jay. Oh, actually, if you have a headline, it'd be great for you to share it. So Jay has here: I guide leaders on how to thrive in a turbulent future. Thank you so much, Jay. That's fantastic, because I don't need to know everything, but the fact that you talk about thriving and you work with leaders and about the turbulent future, I'm going to want to know more about how you actually do that. So yeah, if you have your headline, by all means, share them in the comments with people, and we'll go take a look at some of those. Let's see. We have also here from Marissa giving some advice back to Al. If you can highlight some of the transferable skills for the new roles, then recruiters are likely to be searching for those keywords. So great point, Marissa, especially when you are doing, if you're looking for a job, as we saw earlier, about using the Boolean search for recruiting purposes. Being able to search for certain keywords is a key thing, and headlines in the LinkedIn algorithm are highly, highly valued. So include some of those keywords that you know recruiters are searching for in your headline itself. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? Let's see. I think those were major comments. There's been some discussion here about some of the links that have been shared. I think, again, it depends on how tight your company security may be, the link that Marissa shared. It worked for me. I just took a quick look at it and it seemed to be working fine. Here's another question from Sanjay. Again, ask questions about this process. Again, share your headlines if you're comfortable. And especially if you just rewrote your headline, this is a great place to test it out, and we can give some comments back from people. So, or again, just if you would like to, just email me back, message me or email me, and I'm happy to take a quick look at this and just give you some suggestions, some pointers too. Here from Sanjay: how can we protect our technical content on LinkedIn so that others cannot be reproduced without content writers' permission? And I would never share deep technical things that may be copyright or have intellectual property protections against that. That said, I share very widely, very broadly, as much of my content as possible. Back when I had slides with lots of content on them, when I was speaking, I would just share those because it just helps people to be able to see the content, to be able to read about it. And frankly, it's really hard to build an entire strategy based on slides. So if I can put out as much knowledge as I can, share that knowledge that is not proprietary, and trade secrets, I'm going to share as much of it out there as possible. And as a consultant advisor, the biggest concern I hear from people: what if my competitors steal that idea? What if somebody can implement that strategy without my help? Now, I just gave away the crown jewels. My feeling is if they can do that, all the power to them. Because in the end, what's not replicated on LinkedIn is me, the person presenting it, the person sharing this information. If a client, potential client, can run with this, assuming your deep expertise. Hopefully that's it. Okay, my screen just went off. So my sense here is that I share as much as possible. I put everything on the table. I put all the best practices out there because if somebody can use it, that's fantastic. And they will always be remembering the fact that I did this. They'll be grateful. There will be a relationship that is formed because of that. And there's also a very strong possibility that they're going to run into roadblocks. And they'll remember, hey, this person knew a lot about this, provided a lot of content around it. I'm going to go back to them and get more advice. So I would not be concerned about sharing too much. In fact, I think we share not enough. And especially when it comes to your expertise, to your value that you can create. Again, there's a limit to that. There could be too much information being shared out there. Again, think about who your audience is, what their challenges and problems are. How can you support them? And then what is the impact you're going to have if you are able to actually do that? What I have found over and over again is that when I share my expertise out there in whatever format it is, and especially on LinkedIn, that it comes back in spades because especially as a thought leader, as a content creator, as an advisor, and as a consultant, being able to demonstrate that expertise is a fantastic way for people to gain confidence that that first of all, this is a problem that needs to be solved. Because people typically are looking at 20 different problems. And until one of them really pops up, they're not going to take any action. But if they've seen that demonstration of value being created, of content and expertise, they're more likely to go reach out to you if they can see that demonstrated in your headlines, in your profile, and also in the content that you share. All right. A couple other questions. Let's see. Marissa has a great point here. While I've been focusing here, talking about personal profiles, do not ignore your company profiles. Again, many companies have just began a company profile and have not gone back and looked at it. Constantly look at your presence, the headlines, the about section, and also the content you're posting to make sure they're aligned against the audience that you want to have be reaching. Let's see. Barbara has a great question here. Would you recommend to write long posts or short posts? One thing you should know about the LinkedIn algorithm is that it loves photos and things like that and videos because it just adds another dimension. But the most important thing that drives the algorithm are substantive comments. So if you write a short post, and it drives engagement, not just likes and shares, but people actually writing and saying, oh, this is what's going on. And it has to be at least 150 characters for it to really count. It can't just be like, hi, really like this post. A substantive post, 150 characters where people is explaining, they're sharing, creating content. That's what drives your algorithm, and you get shown to more and more people. And ideally, it happens within the first 2 hours of when you create that post. So long posts can be fantastic too as well. I write long posts every Friday, take these live streams and put them into LinkedIn, into my LinkedIn newsletter. It's a long post. And at the end, I always ask people, so what do you think? Engage. Give an example. Because I'm encouraging people to engage, to share, add comments, and it spreads again. So Peter McNally says, first time I've heard about intellectual property for a decade. Am I in Europe? I work for a European company, but no, I get this. I get asked this question quite often, Peter, about what can I share? What can't I share? And as a content producer, IP is a really important thing for people to say, how do I protect it? How do I use it? You can't actually protect IP unless it's in a very specific format. And if you put it on places like LinkedIn, if somebody takes an idea, they're not taking IP. It's the exact expression of that people can't take and use. You cannot copyright ideas. And that's a very important thing to know and understand. So just a couple other things. Let's see. Marissa, let's see what this says. So this is common internally. This is a person, Richard Vanderbloom. He analyzes and produces an annual report. Lots of different types of posts, vary them, long and short posts. So thank you for that, Marissa. Long posts is a short post. I'll go definitely check out what Richard has to say about that. And let's see, just last comment from Sanjay. Can you please put some light on knowledge, skill, competence, and potential so that people can understand the importance of it and in people's lives and professional life? So thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. Just last words on this. Be sure to take a look at your LinkedIn profile. Take a look at it and just say, is it a good representation of who you are today, the value that you want to create, and keep at the center of everything that you do, the audience that you want to reach, the people that you want to influence, that you want to help and serve. And think about the impact you want to have and put that, make it clear that that is your story, that this is the story you want to have. All right, so I think that's it for now. And apologies for any glitches. I live here in the middle of San Francisco, unbelievable, in the middle of all of the Silicon Valley tech. And it's a struggle to get a constant internet connection, which just irks me. And I apologize if it has locked up on your end at all with the video. Join me next week. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about some more content. And it's about how to leverage thought leadership to drive business. Again, you may think this is, really for just people who write a lot of content creators, influencers. I believe that every single person has a potential to be a thought leader. And so we'll talk more about how to create content for places like LinkedIn. It's a continuation of what I want to talk about today, what I talked about today, which is how do you create a good profile and headline on LinkedIn? But it's also the content that you share. And you may not have to do anything more than just sharing and liking and maybe commenting to be really a thought leader, your thoughts, creating change for your particular audience in order to drive business for yourself. Let's see. So that's what I have for you for today. Rania, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for the thank yous. Sanjay, also thank you for the thank yous. I'm so glad you're all able to attend. Barbara, too, as well. Thank you so much for joining today. It was a great session. Love all the comments coming back and forth of you all supporting each other and in this endeavor. Love the enthusiasm. And I hope you'll join me next week, again, Tuesday the 19th, to talk about how to actually create content and establish yourself as a thought leader. And maybe not a capital T, capital L, but I do believe that as leaders, we can be leading with our thoughts, with the content and the sharing that we do on an everyday basis. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and take care. Have a great day.